Awesome. So once again, I would like to welcome everyone to our Empower to Mentor Women Leadership Program. It's a program that has been set aside to empower women leaders so that we can also reach out to other women, lead and guide them, and as well as other girls, our future generation. So today we are going to be looking at or discussing Leadership 101, and I will be sharing my screen. Okay, let me share the screen first. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, I will just want to adjust a few stuff over here. Okay. Okay, awesome. All right, so today we are looking at Leadership 101. And if I may ask you the question, when you hear the word leadership, what comes to mind?
Lead a group of people.
A group of people? Awesome. Okay. What else comes to mind when you hear the word leadership?
Helping each other.
Helping each other. Awesome. What else? What else comes to mind when you hear the word leadership?
Management.
Management, okay. All right. What else comes to mind when you hear the word leadership?
Empowering people and transferring knowledge.
Awesome. Empowering people and transferring knowledge, Awesome. What else?
Responsibility.
Responsibility. That's a big one. Okay, I think there's a note on the chat for me. Is anyone having network issues? Not really, darling. I think you might be the only one having it. I noticed. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe the bandwidth in your area. I might be having a lot. I used to have that challenge as well. But that's okay. That's all right. So what else comes to mind when you hear the word leadership? What comes to mind when you hear the word leadership? Okay, I am going to give you some. What do you see? So what comes to mind when you hear the word leadership? It's on the screen for you to talk about.
A mentor.
A mentor, yes. Mentoring is an aspect of leadership. What else?
I have a person who guides.
Skills, vision.
I'm sorry?
A person who guides and directs a group of people.
She was in the last class and she's teaching us right now. Awesome. Okay, excellent. What else comes to mind? Oh, you can look at it here.
Distance and experience, yeah. Achieve.
Inspirational, inspiring people.
Yes, a leader inspires people.
Skills.
Helps people build skills. Awesome. And also should be skillful herself. Okay, what else?
Honesty, decision, sincerity.
I'm sorry?
Honesty.
Honesty is a big, big one.
Decision.
But then unfortunately, a lot of leaders are not honest, eh? And that's a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to say something?
Integrity.
Integrity is a big one, but unfortunately, about 50% of leaders don't even have integrity. But it's very, very important. Very, very important. But those that don't have integrity don't go far.
Vision, inspiring. Vision, inspiring.
Yes, yes, that's a big one. You need to be able to inspire people if you want to be successful in your leadership.
Experience.
Bring in the hidden potential in people.
Excellent. Be able to help other people actually be able to identify the potential in those people and also be able to help them bring it out. Because some people are very, very reserved, which is an aspect we're going to be looking at today, different kinds of people, very important for you to know as a leader. So you need to be able to help them bring it out. Yeah, some people need to be pushed out, but others need to be, you need to tell them, hey, settle down. But I think we'll leave that for group dynamics when we'll be discussing that. We'll discuss a lot more about that. What else?
Leadership is like life coach, where you influence people or trying to help them with their goals.
Excellent. Achieving something, right? Because you want to achieve something and you want to help them. Awesome. That is great. A leader needs wisdom. Because if a fool leads a fool, what happens? Or if the blind leads the blind, what happens? So it's very, very important that as a leader, you acquire knowledge and wisdom. I believe that's one of the reasons that you're here, because you want to sharpen your leadership skills. You want to acquire the knowledge so that you can become a better leader. Sincerity is a very, very important attribute a leader should have. A leader should be sincere. Very, very important. You should be competent, especially in the goals that you're trying to set for people to achieve. Very, very important for a leader to be very, very competent in what they're doing. I think we've dealt with most of the things that are on this screen. So I am going to, now we've talked about what a leader should have, or what you think about when we talk about what leadership. Today, we are going to learn to define what is leadership. So we've been talking about leadership. What is actually leadership? And Forbes defined it as a process of social influence, which maximizes the effort of others towards the achievement of a goal. So you see some of the words that you guys actually mentioned are in that definition, okay? Wikipedia defined it as encompassing the ability of an individual, group, or organization to lead, influence, or guide other individuals, teams, or an entire organization. Between these two definitions, there's one word that actually is common to both definitions. What do you think that is?
Influence.
Influence, smart. Who said influence? Oh my goodness, you're so smart. You picked it out. Yes, good, Rana, great job. Influence. So in other words, influence leadership is all about influence, and it's a big, big one. And we are going to see what is influence. Okay. Since leadership is about influence, remember some of the words you guys mentioned, maximizing the effort of others. Somebody talked about bringing out things in people, right? Yeah, so that's where it falls into maximizing the effort of others. Somebody talked about helping them achieving the goal, right? And there, as a team, someone talked about the team, because for you to be a leader, there have to be people, somebody you're leading. Somebody said, if you call yourself a leader and there's nobody following you, then you're not really a leader. Because as a leader, you have to have somebody following you. Okay, so leadership is all about influence. So now the question is, what is influence? Okay, so we are going to look at the definition between the Oxford Language and the Merriam-Webster's Dictionary. It defined influence as the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, but without using apparent exertion of force or direct exercise of command. The key word here is that you have this ability within you to be able to cause a change, to be able to influence, to be able to affect somebody's character, somebody's process of development, somebody's behavior. But you do that without actually exerting a force. So in other words, you do not force the people to actually change, or you do not command them to do what you want them to do. But somebody mentioned inspiration, and that's where inspiration comes into play. So you inspire them to want to change. You inspire them to want to change their character. You inspire them to want to develop themselves in the right way. You inspire them to want to change their bad behavior, but you do not exert force. You do not command them, which I think is a little bit different from what some of us are used to, especially people from my generation. And if you come from places where I come from, you know, it's a little bit different because I mean, they exert force when they want you to change. If you went to school when you were young, for those of you from my kind of background, and I believe almost everyone can, maybe you guys can share with me how it is in your area where you come from when you were growing up, especially in schools. The teachers had the ability to flog you if you do something, right? I mean, you will not dare do something wrong after that, you know? That's not necessarily leadership because you're exerting force, but then inspiration comes when you're able to explain to people the reason why they need to change. If people see the reason why they need to change, the probability, they have a greater probability of actually wanting to change because they see that it is for their own good. So in other words, if you want to influence somebody's character, if you want to influence their behavior or their process of development, you have to give them a reason why they have to change. You have to give them a reason why they have to do what you want them to do without forcing or commanding them to do. So leadership is basically about inspiring people. Influence is basically about inspiring people, not commanding people. Okay, so Dwight defined it as the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it. So now, having communicated to them the reason why they should do that, communicated to them the value, because trust me, people want to see the value they'll get in doing that thing. Everybody wants, like, what is it for me? How is it going to help me? How is it going to help me become a better person? So if you're able to communicate the value associated with that thing that you want them to do, then it makes them want to do it. So leadership or the influence is about getting that person to do that, getting that person to actually want to do it. So once they want to do it, they will do it. So that is what influence it's all about. All right, so now we are going to look at what leadership is not. So remember, leadership is basically the practice of positive influence. So that's the summary of the definition of leadership. Okay, so what we have now said, this is what a leader is. So we've mentioned a few things that are characteristics that a leader should have. So the question is, what is leadership not? Okay, so we also mentioned earlier on, it's not commanding authority. So you do not command people, you do not boss people around. I mean, you see a lot of people doing that, but they are not actually leaders. Right? So oftentimes the CEOs of the companies, they actually, or the people that are at the top chain of organization, okay? So they gain their influence or they get people to do what they want them to do, or they get the respect and admiration or the loyalty of people. These things are earned, and they're earned when they see, when your team sees you serving them. So in other words, when you serve them, they see that you care about them. They know that you have their interest at heart. Then you earn their respect, their admiration, and their loyalty. Okay? So leadership, for you to be success as a leadership, it's all about influence. And this comes when you serve the people in whatever capacity, wherever you are. In different organizations, there are different ways you can serve people. Once you serve them, you get their respect and their admiration, and leadership becomes a lot easier for you. So what great leaders do is that they start creating influence, okay, by clearing, I mentioned it before, communicate. You communicate the goal, you communicate to what you want to do, what you want to achieve as a team. Remember, it's not about you. So you communicate it, you promote it, and also you work towards achieving that goal or that course as a team. And it's very, very important as a leader that you also be in the front line. I mean, there's this adage that leaders lead by example. So if you want to be successful in your leadership, you have to be able to lead by example. Be at the front line. Don't do things or don't what you want people to do. Make sure that you also can do it yourself. Okay, and there's this there are different types of leadership styles that we'll be looking at in another session. Okay, but the one I always promote is the servant leadership. That is the one of the leadership style that I like. But remember, as a leader, you cannot just stick to one style because different scenarios could call for different leadership style, and you should be ready for them. And that's why in another time, we're going to be looking at the different leadership styles. So leadership is not management. Okay. Managers could be leaders if they've performed the responsibility of a leader. But in management, there is a difference between a manager and a leader, though they are mutually exclusive. Okay, but there is a difference between them. It was Peter Drucker that defined, he tried to explain the difference. And he said, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. So management is doing things right. So in other words, you're following the system, but leadership is doing the right things that are beneficial for the organization of the people involved. So leaders oftentimes are responsible for casting a vision. Okay, so they cast a vision, they strategize on the organization's direction, and they motivate the people in their team to want to achieve the goal of the organization, not their goal, but the organizational goal. Okay, so but managers, they don't need to do that. Managers don't have to be a source of inspiration. The function of what they do is that their function is to ensure that the leader's vision, that the vision that the leader has cast for the whole team comes to fruition. So they do this by, they're involved in training. The managers are involved with the planning. They're involved with the directing and the delegating of responsibilities to the different team members, and also monitoring it to make sure that the whole process is a success. Okay, so a leader influences his subordinates to achieve a specified goal, whereas a manager is a person who manages the entire organization. Okay, so a leader directs, a leader guides, and a leader influences the behavior of his followers towards the achievement of the organization's goal. But a manager now is a representative of the organization responsible for the management of the work of the group of people in that organization, and takes all the requisite actions that are required for them to be able to achieve their goal. Managers often, they embrace the process, they seek stability and control, and instinctively they try to resolve the problems that evolve as quickly as possible. And like I said before, most managers also tend to be leaders, but if only they also adequately carry out the responsibility that the leaders carry out. Okay, so the third thing that leadership is not a one size fits all. We mentioned about the different leadership styles. So it's important for you as a leader to be able to know those styles, because different scenarios could call for different leadership styles. So you need to know how to be able to apply or appropriate the style that is needed for that scenario that your organization finds itself in. It was Daniel Goleman that said that the best leaders don't know just one style. They are skilled at several styles and have the flexibility to switch between styles as the circumstances dictate. So very, very important as a leader. So we are going to be looking at leadership dynamics next. So what is leadership dynamics? Okay, it refers to how a leader manages interpersonal conflict and the ability for that leader to also recognize how relationships within groups change and accordingly adapt personal leadership styles. So in other words, there are different people in your group. And of course, when people are together, there's always conflict abounds. So you should be able to know how to be able to resolve those conflicts between the people in your group, and also understand them. And that brings us to the different temperaments. And I always use this as the basics for our leadership class, because it's important for you to be successful as a leader. You have to know yourself. You have to know your strengths. You have to know your ability. You have to know your giftings. If you do not know yourself, you'll not be able to lead other people. So you start by knowing yourself. And also it's imperative that you do know other people as well, okay? Because you're going to be dealing with people, and human beings are quite complex. Very, very important for you to be able to know who are know the people in your group and know how to be able to navigate them, know how to be able to help them, know how to be able to, some of them have conflicts, and know how to be able to help them resolve their conflict. I mean, human beings can be quite complex, and dealing with people in a group, you have to be skilled to be able to work with people, or else you find there'll be so much chaos, and eventually it could, the organization can fall into, can be destroyed if you don't know how to manage the people in your organization. So temperament. So what are temperaments? Somebody may ask. Okay, so temperament refers to the consistent individual differences in behavior that are biological based and are relatively independent of learning, system of values, and attitude. Okay, so they are inborn. They are inborn qualities. That's why they are biologically based. Okay, and they are determined by your genetics. So in other words, you're born with them. Okay. But then there is also something else called personality. Okay, so there is a temperament and there is personality. So temperament is your inborn traits based on your genetics, based on your biological makeup. All right. However, these temperaments can be influenced. And when these temperaments are influenced, that's where we get the word personality. So you were born with some traits, with some attitude. And that is why you find that some people are so quiet, some people, as other people are loud, you know, they were born with that. But as life goes on, as your parents, your childhood, you grew up, the environment that you grew up, so many factors, you went to school, you met with so many friends, all those things, they rub off on you and they change you. And that becomes your personality. Okay, so personality is influenced by your temperament as well as your life experiences. I remember there was a time I met a woman. Okay, she was a woman leader, way ahead of me, because I always tell people, if you've met somebody, it's always good for you to learn from somebody who has gone ahead of you in an area where you want to lead. And this woman have had a lot of experiences. Okay, and I was just starting. So I went to her and I was trying to find out how she got to where she is and some of the things that I was just trying to glean from her. And she told me, I was complimenting her and on how she was handling things. And she was like, I never used to be like this, actually. She told me that it was some of the things that she experienced that made her who she is. Because she said, according to her natural temperament was outgoing. However, the woman I met was an introvert. And I'm like, okay, how did you get to? She was like, oh, life challenges battered me and I went into my shell. So this is how life experiences can influence your temperament, and that now becomes your personality. Now, when you see that woman, she doesn't talk much, but initially she was very, very garrulous, always talking and talking and talking, but life battered her. And see, so that's like some of the people that you meet in your life, some of the people that you're going to meet in your groups as a leader, things happen to them. Some might be traumatic experiences. So might be childhood, something happened in a child, things happen, and, you know, they just stop being who they are, you know, and their personality becomes different. Some of them are mean, not necessarily because they are mean, but because situations made them become mean. And it's very, very important as a leader that you also know this and study them. And don't get mad at people initially until you hear their story. I learned that. Initially, I used to be like, how can this person do this? But over the years of my leadership, I realized that when I got to hear the story, in fact, sometimes when you hear the story, you feel bad as a person. You ask yourself, why did I respond this way? Because this person wasn't naturally a bad person. But when I heard their story, their story made them react or respond the way they're responding to me. And I felt bad because initially, I was mad at them, I was angry at them, but when I heard their story, it wasn't their fault. So as a leader, it's also good to be patient with people, hear their story, know where they're coming from, know who they are. If you don't know them, you cannot help them. If you don't know anybody, if you don't know their story, as much as they can share with you, because of course, people cannot share everything about themselves with you, but try to get to know them. And that will help you to lead them appropriately. Okay, so there is a difference between temperament and personality. I will repeat it again. Temperament refers to your inborn qualities that are determined by your genetics, but your personality is actually influenced by your temperament in addition to your life experiences. There are 4 temperaments. Actually, I chose to go with Tim LaHaye's explanation of temperaments because different people have explained it differently. He chose to explain it using 4 factors. Others have divided theirs into 5. You hear the word, some people use Dix, others use other things, all right? But I choose to go with his. You can search up his book, Spirit Control Temperament. I recommend that you read it as well. He went explicit in defining the different people and their makeup, and that will really help you. So based on what he has said, he defined it, he tried to categorize the temperament into 4 based on the humors. Humors are the body fluids that we have in our body. And so he tried to use the blood, phlegm, and bowel. All right, these were the things he tried to use to explain the different temperaments, relating it to how the makeup of the different people. So the first one, and before I try to explain that to you, okay, actually, let me just say that the first one was the sanguine, based on the humor blood. The second one is the phlegmatic, based on the humor phlegm. The third one is a choleric, based on the humor yellow bile. And the fourth one is a melancholic, based on the humor black bile. Now there is a picture on the screen. There is the sanguine, there is the choleric, there is the melancholic, and this phlegmatic. Can anybody tell me what they see on the screen about these people? Can you tell me something about these people? These are the different, everybody has been categorized based on those 4. What do you see?
The first one, sanguine.
Mm-hmm.
The sociable and laughable, joyful people.
Awesome. That's exactly true. You can see they love to be the life of the party. And what else do you see?
Melancholy.
Okay.
They seem to be detailed and
Okay.
study people deeply.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
Okay.
Likes to enjoy, be outdoors. They think a lot.
Okay.
They're thinkers.
Okay.
And
The choleric.
calories. I think they like to direct.
So true. Can see my hands pointing. That is so true. She did an excellent explanation of those people. That is so true. So we're going to look into details about these different groups of people. So remember, we tried to define what temperament is. Can somebody tell me what temperament is? What is temperament?
Temperament.
Inborn traits.
Oh, sorry.
Inborn traits. Sorry, somebody was saying something.
As you said, it's inborn or genetic.
Okay.
And it can be a life experience.
Okay.
That makes it to change.
You mean you're defining temperament, or you're defining something else?
Temperament.
Okay. 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 You were trying to add something else at the latter part. That was why I asked.
Oh, sorry.
No, that made you the change, right? So I believe you were trying to tell me that for you to have a personality, you need your temperament. Was that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, excellent. That was a good explanation of temperament. So what is your personality?
Just
What
as
is
I
your-
was trying to say at the last
last part
statement.
of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So your personality is as a result of your temperament and life experiences, right? So it's an outward expression of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's this third word, which is character. And actually somebody said the character is the real you. Okay. And there is a definition of it called the hidden person of the heart. And your character is the result of your natural temperament, that's your temperament, modified by your childhood training, your education, your attitudes, basic attitude, your beliefs, your principles, and your motivation. Okay, so those are the different three things that I just wanted to bring into. So now we're going to look at the different, the sanguine. What is it about a sanguine that makes her the life of the party? Okay. Somebody said that actually it was a Tim LaHaye guy that said that the sanguine personality is affected by a chemical called dopamine. And this makes people intensely curious and creative. And their curiosity can be expressed in their love for reading and the different kinds of knowledge that they acquire. They have a high amount of energy. Of course, you can see you need a high amount of energy to be able to be the life of the party. So most of the time they are restless and they can actually be spontaneous. They love a life of luxury. They love it a lot. They love to impress other people. And they love expensive clothes, expensive designer wears. As I'm saying these things, you might fall into that category, or you might know someone that fall into that category. They like flashy things. They like flashy cars. They spend a lot. And of course, for you to be able to afford all those flashy stuff, you have to be able to spend a lot. They love to travel. They are willing to take risks. Okay. And I'm just going to put that one up here for you to see some of their personalities. Okay. So they are willing to take risks for the sake of whatever thing that they are interested in. Oftentimes they get bored so easily, except something really captures them. They get bored so easily. And their constant craving for adventure are the primary motivating force behind their actions and decisions and choices. So they love a lot of adventures, and that influences the decisions they make. They can adapt quickly, and generally they can play many roles. They are buoyant, they are lively, they are quite optimistic, and they have the ability to absolutely charm anyone that seeks their attention. Maybe because of the words, the way they talk, they are charmers, okay? And because they do not like boredom, they often are the life of the party. Okay, so most of the time they try to avoid routine. They don't like anything that is monotonous. You would not find them. They will not be a part of it. They thrive, even though they love and thrive on interruptions, they get energized quickly, and yeah, they get energized quickly. They can be quite impulsive, and they often find it difficult to control their cravings and may struggle with actually their weight because they love this good lifestyle things. Okay, they are usually more creative than other types. So oftentimes you find them becoming actors. They love music, theater. They love art. They love business. They love cooking. Okay. But because of that chemical dopamine that affects them, they often have prone to addictions. They are prone to addictions and mood disorders. Okay. And sanguines, we call them sparky sanguines. That's Tim LaHaye's definition, because they are sparky and they are extroverts. Okay, so there are these temperaments have been categorized under extroverts and introverts. So just to let you know that in as much as there are 4 categories, what every individual has a predominant temperament. However, you also have a part of other temperaments as well. So in other words, you could be a sanguine and a choleric. So we call them sancolor. So sanguine is your predominant temperament. Then other temperaments are also, you find yourself also in other temperaments. You could have 2, you could have 3, you could have 4. We're actually going to be doing an exercise at the end of this for those of you that have not done it, so that we can know which of them that you belong to. Now, it might not be 100% accurate because it depends on the answers that you provide, but at least it gives you an idea of where you might fall into. Okay, so the sanguine, they are receptive by nature, and external expression has capacity to, they love to enjoy themselves, and they love life. They are compassionate. They are friendly. However, some of their weaknesses is that they are restless. They can be quite undisciplined. Okay, and they are quite egotistical, and they are very emotional. Okay, so sanguine people always make excellent salespeople because they can talk. Okay, they can talk their way into getting you to buy what they have, which is a good quality. Okay, and they are quite entertainers as well. Okay, so that's all about the spark is sanguine. So some of you here might be sanguine. If you find yourself having some of these attributes or characteristics, perhaps you are predominantly a sanguine. So now let's look at the next person, the rocky choleric, also another extrovert that we find. Okay, we call them testosterone rules. And it happens to be that most men are cholerics because of the nature of cholerics. We do have a few women that are cholerics as well. Okay, the cholerics, they are hot, they are quick, they are active, they are practical, they are strong-willed, very, very strong-willed. A lot of leaders are leaders of organizations are actually cholerics. They are strong-willed, they are opinionated, all right? They are often self-sufficient and very independent. They tend to be very decisive and opinionated, like I've said, finding it easy to make decisions for themselves. And they also want to make decisions for other people as well. So easy for them to do that. They thrive on activity. They like working and working. We call them workaholics, especially the men. They are so goal-oriented that all they think about is things to achieve their goals. And so it is good, but sometimes it could have some disadvantage as well. Okay, they are not frightened by adversities. Challenges do not frighten them at all. Rather, once they encounter challenges, they have this determination to keep moving forward, and oftentimes they succeed when other people fail. Okay, often cholerics are actually born leaders. They are the one temperament that we say they are born leaders. Okay, they are always landing on their feet. Even if they fall, they get up right back on their feet and keep moving. They are not as emotional as the sanguine. Their emotional nature is the least developed aspect of their temperament. So because of that, they don't easily sympathize with people. Okay. They don't show compassion. Very, very rarely do they show compassion. But remember, this is just your temperament. So life experiences or things can modify that temperament, and the person now has the ability to be able to share compassion, especially for a Christian. If you're a Christian and you believe in the power of the Holy Spirit and the Word of God, this modifies the temperament. That's what we have the Spirit controlled temperament, because the Holy Spirit now modifies the temperament. So you now become a different person for people that are Christians. Okay, but I won't go into details because this is a neutral forum for everybody. Okay, but just to let you know that your temperament can be modified by your different beliefs. Okay, so they have a well-organized mind, though they do not like details. So they have to find somebody else. So if you're a leader and a choleric, you need somebody in your team who knows details to be able to put in your team. So as a leader, it's very, very important when you're forming a team for you to be able to also know who you need in your team, know your weaknesses, know your strength. Remember, that's what we talked about. That's what we're talking about, temperaments. So you know yourself, basic. Then you know those in your team, you know those that you need, you know who to put what and who to ask what to do, because you're working with knowledge and understanding. Okay, so the cholerics, once they start working towards a goal, they can be quite ruthless. I'm sorry to say, they don't really care about people. All they care about is their goal, so they can run over people just to achieve their goal, and that can be kind of like a weakness. But hey, that's what people, business people, they want to achieve their goal at all costs. But hey, caring for other people, very, very important as well. They are money and success oriented people. So they care about money, they care about success more than they care about relationships. They are fascinated by oftentimes people in the money market, people that involved in investments, stocks, trading, and all those things are involved. Revenue generation are mostly cholerics. They are naturally gifted business people. Okay, of course, their ruthless nature helps them to accomplish that task. They are always looking for opportunities and always looking for something to do. They do not do well in subordinate positions. Because of their independent nature, they find it difficult to be able to submit to leaders. So that's what makes them to want to be leaders themselves, because they find it hard submitting to another leader. However, that aspect of temperament can also be refined as well. Okay, so I think they've talked to us a little bit about the choleric. They're very smart people. They're very good at maths, geometry, engineering. They're very good at it. They're just smart people naturally. And they are quite logical. They are quite logical and quite analytical as well, though they don't like details. The high testosterone activity they find in themselves makes them very straightforward. Sometimes they're not polite, they're not respectful sometimes, and they're not friendly, because I guess their whole mind is about what they want to achieve. Okay, so that's enough about the cholerics. There's so much more. I'll suggest you read that book. They went into details. But there's so much to know about the cholerics, but because of our time, I don't want to go too much into details. Okay, so the next people that we are going to, okay, so just to enumerate their strengths and their weaknesses for the choleric. Their strengths: they are strong-willed, they are self-disciplined, they are practical, they are born leaders, and they are optimistic. Their weaknesses: they are hot-tempered, which I believe a leader should be very, very careful about if you want to be successful. You need to work on that if you're a hot-tempered leader. They can be cruel because they don't care about people. All they care about is their goal. They can be bossy sometimes. And they are self-sufficient, which is good and sometimes not good as well. Okay. Oftentimes they find careers in motivation, productivity, and leadership. They have a built-in promotional ability and do well in sales and teaching, politics, service, sports, and many other endeavors. So the next person that we are going to be looking at is the melancholy, the maestro melancholy. Okay, so now the first two were extroverts. Now the next two are introverts. So introverts are people that they kind of quiet. They're more on the reserved side. The extroverts are more outgoing. Okay, so the first introvert that we're going to look at is the maestro melancholy. Okay, the melancholy is often referred to as the dark temperament. They are the richest of all temperaments because if they're strength, they have a lot of strengths more than the other temperaments. They are quite analytical. They are self-sacrificing, they are gifted, they are perfectionists, and they have a very sensitive, emotional nature. Okay, and oftentimes their feelings predominate, and they are prone to have different kinds of moods. They are prone to be gloomy, and they are prone to be depressed. Because of their dark temperament, their dark nature, because oftentimes they are withdrawn, they are by themselves. Isolation could be a big challenge, right? Because isolation leads to depression, can lead to depression. So oftentimes, because they are by themselves, they are withdrawn, they tend to be isolated, and that's why they are easily predisposed to being gloomy, mood disorders, and even depression. Unlike the sanguine, who is the life of the party, they find it difficult to make friends, or let's say they don't make friends so easily. However, when they make friends, it's like for a lifetime because they are very, very faithful people. They are faithful people. You can count on them. You can depend on them. They are very, very dependable. So if you have a friend that is a melancholy, it's a check mark for you because that friend is going to be faithful to you or that friend is going to be loyal to you. If you have a team member who is a melancholy, that's a good team member that is worthy of keeping because that team member is going to be faithful to you because as a leader, you need people that are going to be faithful to you. You don't need people that are going to stab you in your back. You don't need people that are going to walk against what you want to do. You need people that will be there faithful to the course of the organization, people that are loyal, not people that are antagonistic to your vision and to the goal of the organization. So the melancholy can be depended upon. They oftentimes have great moods of inspiration, so they can be inspiration for the team. Most of the great works that have been produced in this world, the genius works that have been produced, actually been produced by people that are melancholy in nature. Okay, so they love sacrificing themselves, they love caring, they love helping other people, they love giving up themselves for other people. Okay, and they are, because of their perfectionist nature, whenever they do a work, it's spot on. You know, their work is often perfect. Okay, and they are quite respectful to authority. Okay, so submission will not be a problem to them. They respect authority. They follow rules quite easily. And they feel comfortable in hierarchies where in organizations where there is structure, regulations, and other implemented, they are very, very comfortable in such an environment, quite unlike the cholerics that does not want anybody to command them or to be an authority over them. They don't like following rules, they like doing their own thing. You know, melancholy is the opposite, okay? All right, I think that's going to be all I'm going to talk about the melancholy. And we'll go over to the last person. And that is the phlegmatic. And that is another introvert person that we do have. Okay, and so sorry, before we go to the phlegmatic, just to summarize the strengths and weaknesses for the melancholy. Their strengths involve they are sensitive, they are perfectionist, they are faithful, self-sacrificing. Their weaknesses, they are self-centered. They can be quite suspicious, and of course, they take their time before they make friends, because once they make a friend, it's forever. They are oversensitive. We can be quite challenging. They are pessimistic, and they can be moody. Okay. But most of the world's philosophers, theologians, theoreticians, scientists, educators have actually been melancholy. Okay, so they have the richest strengths, but they also have their weaknesses as well. So the phlegmatic. Okay, that's the last temperament that we're going to be looking at because we'll be running up pretty soon. I don't want to keep you guys too long. The phlegmatic, somebody says they are the web thinkers. So of course they are quite detail oriented. They are quite unassuming. They are agreeable. Everything goes. It's a yes, yes, yes. They are quite intuitive. They are calm. They are cool. They are easygoing. Nothing bothers them in life. I mean, in situations whereby other temperaments are fretting, they're just calm and like everything's going to be okay. And everything actually eventually becomes okay for them. They are a well-balanced temperament, never seems to get ruffled or bothered by anything. They hardly explode in anger or laughter because they keep their emotions under control. So they're able to control their emotions. They are kind-hearted. They are usually very good in being empathic, showing empathy, sympathetic others. They show empathy, but then sometimes they don't really convey their feelings in as much as they're empathizing with other people. They do not have lack of friends because they enjoy having people around them. and they have a naturally dry sense of humor that other people enjoy as well. They have a retentive mind, so they're able to recall events or activities or things that were taught to them. It is kind of difficult for you to be able to motivate them. So if you have a phlegmatic in your team, you're going to have to do a lot more work to get them to do what needs to be done compared to the sanguine. Like you have to take a lot of convincing, a lot of inspiration, a lot of words, communication, and all that stuff, because they don't want to shake their routine at all. They just want to stay where they are. They've got a talent, they've got a gifting, but they're not going to come up until you keep talking and talking and encouraging them, and you find out, and when they come out, you'll be amazed at what they have to offer. So these are the different groups of people that you're going to see in your team as a leader. You need to know where each one belongs, so you'll be able to know where to fit them and know how to help them and know how to use their giftings to be able to accomplish. Remember, a leader, your job as a leader is to galvanize all the giftings, all the talents that these people have. You galvanize all of them. A leader is not the smartest person in the room. A leader is not the most knowledgeable person in the room. A leader is not the person that has the most wisdom in the room. A leader is just somebody who can galvanize all these other things that other people have in order to be able to achieve the goal of the organization. As a leader, I mean, there can be a scientist in your team. You're not a scientist, so that scientist in your team is going to know better than you. So you need to be able to know how to use that giftings, that talent that scientists have. You might have a doctor in your team or a nurse in your team. These are different fields. People have different specializations. People have different giftings. So all these people are members of your team. You need to be able to use their different, remember, they know it more than you, but they are not the leader. So your job as a leader is to galvanize all these things so that the work of the organization, the goal of the organization will be achieved. Very, very important. So know the people, know their strengths, know their weaknesses. Okay, so what are the strengths of the phlegmatic? They can be witty, they are dependable, they are easygoing, they are efficient, and they are calm. What are their weaknesses? They're kind of slow, and sometimes it can be annoying when you have a member of your team that is quite slow. You're like, what's going on here? While the sparky sanguine is already like 100 meters away, the phlegmatic is right behind like a snail or a turtle crawling. But you need to be patient as a leader. That's why patience is one of the virtues that a leader needs to have, to be able to hold on to the sanguine that is in front while holding on to the turtle phlegmatic that is at the back, because they are quite slow in getting to where you want them to get to. They can be lazy. Because of their easygoing nature, calm, knowing nothing bothers them, they can be lazy and not doing what they are expected to do. Sometimes they are selfish, and sometimes they are quite stubborn as well. Most of the world's diplomats have been supervisors, foremen, managers, have been found to be phlegmatic. Okay, they are quite detailed, so they have the ability to be able to read in between the lines. They are good at memorizing things because they have a good retentive memory. Okay, and so many things to learn about the phlegmatic, which I would suggest that you can also read up as well. Okay, so you can know. So because of the time, I'm going to be rounding up. I try to keep it to 1 hour and not to keep us too long. So we are going to do a test. So that's why I'm going to stop today. Remember, you got to know yourself and you got to know the people in your team. And that is why we're doing temperament, the basic thing you got to know. We are going to do a temperament test, and I'm going to post something on the chat here for you to do. It's going to allow I would like to know where every one of you fall into. And I would like you to share as well once you finish. Okay. I think I'm going to have to stop sharing because I notice whenever I share, I'm not able to post on the chat board. So I think this is our last slide. So I will stop sharing. Okay. Excellent. I'm just going to minimize this. Bring this here. Perfect. All right. So I am going to drop this on the chat board. Okay. There is a Christy that came in. Christy, welcome. Welcome. We didn't know who you are. Please, may we see your beautiful face maybe at the end of this. If possible, you can do this as well. So in the process of us getting to know where you belong, we also get to know you as well. So I hope you guys are able to click the link.
Oh,
Okay, so you can do the test. I will wait for you.
you can put the link again, please.
You want me to put the link again?
Yes.
Okay, I will do just that. Paste. Okay, are we able to open the link?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough, Christy. But you would like to know about you, so probably you tell us a bit about you at the end once we're done this test. I hope everybody is able to click on the link and open it. If you're done, you can type, you can put it on the chat board so we get to know where you fall into. Remember, you're just going to be predominantly one temperament. However, you can also find yourself in other temperaments as well. It will let you know. Choleric. Wow, Mississippi, you're choleric. Amazing. Do you have a combination or is just choleric? It just is choleric?
Choleric 7, the rest are just 1, 1.
1, 1. Oh, so you're predominantly highly choleric.
Same the last time.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. Rana, sanguine. Oh, you are the life of the party. That's awesome. Awesome. Beautiful. Do you have, what percentage of others do you have? Do you fall into, oh, was it all sanguine? Oh, sweetheart, you have to unmute yourself.
Phlegmatic.
Phlegmatic?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a sun-flag.
I'm combination.
What's the percentage?
So I have sanguine 4, phlegmatic 3, and choleric 1.
Oh, okay. Good combination.
Yeah.
Awesome. Christy is a melancholic. Do you have other ones as well, or 100% melancholic?
Sorry, I must have went backwards and then now it's gone.
Okay. All right, that's fine. That's fine, Christy. And Golda is a choleric. Oh, wow. Golda, do you have other ones as well, or is it 100% choleric?
It's 2 for the melancholic one, and then 1 for everything else. And
Okay, predominantly. Wow. Okay. All right. At least that gives you an idea. So perhaps you can go and study more about these people. So that will let you know about yourself. But remember this, sometimes always these things are not 100% accurate because they give you, the results are based on the answers that you provide as well. But at least it gives you an idea what kind of person you could be. But remember, these are just temperaments. So your person, your environment, your childhood, your beliefs, your principles have also influenced you. Excuse me. Like I would tell somebody I'm a phlegmatic. I'm predominantly phlegmatic. And somebody's going to say, no, that's not possible. But yes, initially I was phlegmatic, but my life experiences have really worked on that temperament aspect of me that now you will not even believe that I once was a phlegmatic, so that's what life experiences do to you. So bear that in mind, but at least it gives you an idea when you see people, you understand why they act the way they act and because of who they are. No two people are alike. So not everybody in your team is going to be the same thing, or else, in fact, one person is going to be useless. You need variety said to be the spice of life. So it's good that you have those different people. It's good that you have a choleric. It's good that you have a sanguine. It's good that you have a choleric, a melancholic, and a phlegmatic. You need all these different people in your team for your team to be able to succeed in what you guys choose to do. So you need everybody, but you need to know them so that if you see a choleric, you don't start treating them like a melancholic, or else you infuriate them and it's not going to work well for your team. That's where good group dynamics comes into play, which we are going to look at next month. We are going to be looking at group dynamics in detail. And all this. Does anybody have any question before we call it a day today? Anybody have a question? If you don't have a question, I'm going to have a question for you. All right. So while the person is, somebody's still trying to think about a question. What is leadership? Yes. What is leadership? Anybody?
Leadership is a process of social influence.
A process of social influence. So what is influence? Yeah, no, you answered right. So the next follow-up question is, what is
Influence influence is the way you impact other, whether positive way or in negative way.
Excellent. So influence is the way you impact, the way you affect people's life, right? Awesome. So what leadership, how do you as a leader, how can you get somebody to help you achieve the goal of the organization?
First, you have to listen to what their needs or wants and try to incorporate a new idea or a goal that they will help them to achieve it.
Awesome. So in other words, you're thinking about that person, right? So you're thinking about helping that person. So when they realize that you care, somebody said it's people don't care about what you know until they know how much you care. So you can influence people better as a leader when you show them that you really care about them. When they realize that you care about them, you're able to influence them better. That's excellent. That's a good way of getting them to do what needs to be done.
Yeah,
So
like
what
empathy. Like an empathy.
That's right. Yeah. Empathizing with your situations, right? Yep. And also people in your team are going to be going through some stuff, right? You need to be able to know and also empathize with them. If it's something you can help, you help. If it's not something you can help, at least they know that you've empathized with them, but they know that you care. Very, very important. Okay, so what is leadership not?
Being forceful.
Being forceful. You don't force people, you're forcing people. They can do it and do it. One day they're going to say goodbye, right? And it's not, you're not going to get the exchange that you need, all right? So leadership is not commanding authority.
I don't know where something, I can look for clothing, I'm going to work tomorrow. Yeah.
You're going to work tomorrow?
No. Sorry.
I had to say that out because I know what was going on, but don't mind me.
No.
I know that's
tomorrow is Sunday.
That's okay. I know you're trying to talk to somebody. All right. So leadership is not commanding authority. What is leadership not?
Not to be judgmental.
You're not judgmental. Okay. So try to understand people, right? Understand where they're coming from, right? Excellent. So what is leadership not?
Management.
It is not management. So what is the difference between a leader and a manager?
A leader is a person who guides and directs a group.
Okay.
And management is getting people do things right.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Awesome. That's a good differential explanation. All right. So what is temperament?
Temperament is like a behavioral style, and then personality is like how your characteristic affects like the people around you.
Okay, yeah, that's a personality. So what determines your temperament?
Genetics.
Your genetics. Excellent. So it's inborn, right? And what determines your personality?
Genetics and life experiences.
Excellent, excellent. And what is your character? I'm
Personality.
sorry?
A real you? No,
The real you. And what determines your character?
is modified by childhood education and motivation.
Excellent, excellent, excellent answers. So based on Tim LaHaye's categorization of the temperaments, how many temperaments do we have?
Four.
Four, and what are they?
Sanguine,
Sanguine,
Mhm.
Sanguine, melancholic,
choleric,
Okay,
phlegmatic.
phlegmatic. Thank you. And who is the sanguine? Some characteristics of the sanguine.
yeah.
Life of the party.
Yeah, life of the party, just like you are, Anna. Awesome. And what about the choleric?
They're born leaders.
Born leaders. Awesome. And what about the melancholy?
Introvert people who are like calm. They have like emotions, deep emotions.
Deep emotions.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So that's what they are prone to mood disorders and depression and all that stuff. Yeah. And what about a phlegmatic?
They're agreeable.
Not agreeable. Everything
Empathetic.
goes.
Yeah.
Everything goes awesome. So do you need all these people in your team?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. You do that. You do, because they have their strengths. They have their strengths. So you do need all this
Yeah.
in your
Right.
team. And I always tell people, be very careful as a leader before you form your team. Okay, depending on what organization you're in. I mean, if the person is just coming to work for you and you're paying for the person, then that's different. But then I'm talking about your core team for you to be able to, your leadership team, let me just put it that way, because even in every organization, there are some core groups that sit down and agree, and then other people can work and all that stuff. Yeah. So for you to form your core team, depending on your organization, very, very important that you select your leader wisely. Don't be a hasty selecting the people that are going to be in your team. The people that are going to be helping you, because of course they're going to be helping you also shape the organization goals, because you're going to be listening to some of their suggestions, and especially if they are people from different fields. Depending on different organizations call for different styles. So I'm talking in general. Okay, but then for you to be able to select the people in your team, you need different people in your team, and you need them to be able to complement one another. Remember, a team is not a group of people just getting together. Okay, a team is a group of people who are agreed to work together to bring in their different strengths and all that they have, complementing one another to achieve the goal. I was sharing with somebody today, and I think it was actually Miss Martin when I met her earlier today. I was sharing about my kids' basketball, because my kids play basketball. And my first two kids, they just finished, they got into the provincials, and that was a good news for them. And one of my kids, their team, they got into the provincials. And all of a sudden, when I got to the provincials, everybody was now trying to work based on their own goals. So it wasn't now the goal of the team. It was an individual goal. Everybody wanted to be the top shot. And you know what happens then? the team fell apart and they lost. So that a group of people come together does not make a team. A team is a group of people that have agreed to work together, putting each other first because they all want to achieve the goal of the organization. So as a leader, very important that you choose your team wisely. Anybody that's antagonistic to the goal of the team, please, that person doesn't need to be in your team, because it's going to be a headache for you. You have to actually be able to overcome that headache for you to start moving for the time that you'd have used to be productive in moving forward. You're not trying to use it to settle a score that you should not settle. So very important, test people before you bring them into your team. Now, I'm not talking about people that you just hire employees. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your team. Okay, the people that you really work with closely. You got to test them to make sure that you guys can flow, because there are some people that you can just not just flow with. That's life. That's okay. They are not bad people. You're not a bad person. You cannot just work together. That's okay. I mean, there are other people, there are other teams that they can work together. I mean, that's life. Okay, so as a leader, very, very important, very, very important, because trust me, your core group, we call it a core group, can determine how far you go in achieving your goal, or could destroy the whole organization. So very, very important, especially if you're in the nonprofit sector, very important, because it's all about charity. It's all about doing good wills. All right. So you're not paying. I mean, you can always pay somebody. Once you pay somebody, the person is going to do what you want them to do anyways, because all they care about is their money, and they just get their money and they're gone. But in a place whereby there's volunteerism and that people are just doing the thing of their own free will, then that now where, of course, I mean, you're not paying them. So they're not really in it for the money. They are in it because they love the goal of the organization. They want to help the goal of the organization. So you have to be able to choose them wisely so that they can fit into that which you want them to do. In a business section, you hire and you fire. That's why you can hire and fire people. But those are not the people that I'm talking about. I'm talking even in the process, even in that environment as well. You also, that's why you find it that when you go for job interviews, the first thing they want to see on your resume is that, are you a team player? So everybody, no matter business, whatever organization you're in, they want a team player. They don't want an individualistic person, because a team player will always think about the overall goal of the organization. They put it ahead of theirs. So very, very important as a leader, if you want to bring people into your team, whether you're paying them or whether they're just coming up in an accord, as long as they're going to be your core groups, they're going to be a part of your team, is better you choose wisely. Don't be in a haste. It's better you have one person in your team than having 10 people in your team that give you a lot of headache, because that will not work well for you. So now that you've known the different people that in your team, different types of people, try to ascertain who falls where, try to understand them. And remember also that they fall into this category does not mean that is all there is to them. Try to know their story if they want to share with them, and I try to understand where they're coming from. And that way, if you really know them, spend time with them. If you know them, that you're able to now help them. Remember, it's not only about good leadership. It's not only about achieving the goals of the company. Also, it's all about caring for the people as well. Because when you care for them, I can't remember what company that is that said, I don't know if it's Apple or one of these big shot business companies. I heard that they even build daycare for their employees' children, because they want the employees to have the right environment so they can put in their best. So they have daycares for their kids. So the people are working in this building, and just right down in the building they're working, there's a daycare for their employees' children. So that's how far people are good, because when people know that they are cared for, they give their best, they give their all. And that's what you need as an organization to be able to achieve your goal, to be able to success, to be able to get to the pinnacle of your goal. Make them comfortable, and hey, they'll give it their best. So they take care of the kids. Because I mean, if a worker or one of your team member, his child is somewhere, their mind is there. I don't know if my child is safe. So of course, half of them are with you. The other half are with their children. But then with the children being in the same building or in a safe place, they're giving their 100%. So in other words, also care about the people, and you'll be able to get more from them when you care about them. So today we're going to stop with that about leadership. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I've spent an hour and a half before we could. I think I'm going to stop recording right now. Okay, where is my stop recording?